Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Friends, today we will look at some important questions on literary theory. सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन था लियोपोल्ड सीडार सिंघोर एंड एमी सिजायर वर एसोसिएटेड विद आंसर है नेग्रीट्यूड देन इरविंग बैबिट एंड पॉल एल्मर मोर वर चैम्पियन ऑफ न्यू ह्यूमनिज्म. Then, Renaissance self-fashioning and Shakespearean negotiations are works by answer है Stephen Greenblatt. Then, context was not a kind of meaning described by I.A. Richards. Very important. Then, Menippean satire plays a major role in Bhaktin's theory of novel. The next है the concept of deep structure is fundamental to J.G. Grammar. Then Roland Barthes introduced the term legible and scriptable in the work S/Z. सो फ्रेंड ये जो वर्क है S/Z ये एक बुक है जो कि रोलैंड बार्थ्स द्वारा लिखी गई है. देन टर्म आइडियोलॉजी इज सेंट्रल टू एल्थ्यूजर्स वर्क. The next है Roland Barthes defined the text as a tissue of quotations drawn from innumerable centers of culture. Very important. Then Edward Said coined contrapuntal reading to describe a reading strategy that exposes elements of colonial discourse within a text. Then in second sex, one is not born but rather becomes a woman. So friends, ये जो लाइन है ये इस बुक में से कोट की गई है जिस बुक का नाम है सेकेंड सेक्स. वन इज नॉट बॉर्न बट rather becomes a woman. Then Jean Paul Sartre has written the controversial introduction to Franz Fanon, The Rest of the Earth. The next है Foucault's idea of genealogy was greatly influenced by the work of Friedrich Nietzsche. The next है C.R.T is the abbreviation for critical race theory. The next है Henry Fielding. Authors have not been criticized by Edward Said for colonial stereotyping of the Orient. The next है In Search of Her Mother's Gardens is the defining essay of womanism. The next है Paul Gilroy is a major scholar in the field of answer है race. Cultural poetics is a term that has been used in the place of new historical. The next है Deleuze Guattari argued in the book Anti-Oedipus that desire is not as Freud saw it but is production and productive. The next है No Man's Land is a classic 3-volume feminist by Gilbert and Guber. Then Cartographics and Diaspora is a post-colonial criticism work by Aftab Bra. The next Hegel cannot be termed an anti-philosopher. The next है Noam Chomsky held that human beings have an innate capacity for acquiring, using and interpreting language. The next है Being and Time is the seminal work of Martin Heidegger. The next है Helen Sixers, theorist, described herself as a geo-woman. Very important in an expression of homelessness and hybridity. The next है Bhaktin's term chronotop that denotes dialogue space in the novel is borrowed from Albert Einstein. The next है R.S. Crane was the founder of the Chicago School of Criticism. Then Christopher Caldwell wrote the work of verse criticism, illusion and reality. The next Marxist philosophy of history is called historical materialism. Then Ferdinand de Saussure was a professor at the University of Geneva. Then, George Louis Borges is the author cited by Jean Baudrillard in Simulation and Simulacra, in whose story the map replaces the territory. Then, Julia Kristeva's concept of intertextuality is based on the theory of decentering. Then, Raymond Williams said in the book Keywords that culture is one of the 2 or 3 most complicated words in the English language. Very important. Then, the concept of aesthetic function of language lies at the core of Jan Mukarovsky's poetics. Then, the formalists anticipated postmodernist self reflexivity by preferring poesis to mimesis. Then, motivation is the formalist term for the dependence of poem on references to external reality and on literary assumptions and mere justification to use formal devices. Then, formalists contest the traditional subordination of formal devices to answer है content. The next है, while for Aristotle, mythos is the arrangement of the incidents, Shklovsky's analysis of Tristram Shandy that for the formalists, Sajuzet is actually the violation of the formal arrangements of incidents. Then, the formalists challenged the classical idea that art should conceal its own processes. Then, in his study of metaphor and metonymy, Roman Jacobson borrowed Saussure's binary opposition syntax versus paradigm, which stand for combination and for selection respectively. Then Victor Shklovsky introduced the concept of laying bare the device. Then Shklovsky made art is a way of experiencing the artfulness of the object. The object is not important. Then Jonathan Swift, 18th century writer, were the formalists fond of citing. Then Lawrence Stern's Tristram Shandy did Shklovsky's write a monograph on in order to discuss the concept of defamiliarization. Then Shklovsky introduced the concept of Austrianising in the essay Art as Technique published in 1917. Then Victor Shklovsky was profoundly influenced by Futurism. Then Victor Shklovsky criticized the automatization of human experience. The next है Jan Mukarovsky among the Russian formalists developed the basis of literary idea of foregrounding by introducing two types of language semicolon standard and poetic language. The next है Jacobson's analysis of metaphor and metonymy anticipates Lacan analysis of condensation and displacement. Please remember this, very important. Then Jacobson holds that poetry is based on similarity, thus learning more towards metaphor. The next here, Roman Jacobson, the author of three aspects of language and two types of aphasic disturbances, stands as a link between formalism and structuralism. The next here, Roman Jacobson argued that poetics is an integral part of linguistics. Then, the quite essential literary use of language according to the Russian formalist is to be found in poetry. According to Russian formalists, literary language is distinguished from practical language by virtue of its constructedness. Then friends, इसी के साथ ये questions over होते हैं. And friends, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Hope these questions will help you in your UGC NET English Literature exams. Thanks friends for watching.